Looking for a cosmic adventure like no other? Zatswan, Multiversal Guardian is a high-stakes comic book journey through the multiverse with stunning art and an unforgettable hero. Get your copy today in ebook and paperback formats. Link in the description.
Hi everybody, this is Neil Allen, the creator of Zatswan Multiversal Guardian, a graphic novel that you can pick up on Amazon in the description below. And today we're going to talk about the relationship of War Machine and Captain Marvel at Marvel Comics. And what set off this discussion was an interesting comment I got on a video from Long-Legged Mac Daddy. Thank you for commenting. And they go on to say, this was an interesting watch. As someone not super familiar with comics and with most of my exposure to black male characters being outside the medium, my biggest complaint has always been that DC and Marvel don't really invest all that much into black male characters, gay, straight, and everything in between. So when I attempted to get into them, it was hard. I know your pain, moving on, because a lot of the times they don't give you much to work with, even though the material to do something interesting is there. Take Captain Marvel and War Machine's relationship, 10 years together, just about, and they've done F all with two characters that if they were in any other medium would be a well-loved couple, just because of how well they would mesh together, and the interesting stories you can get out of them. Just like with Cinch and X-23 during the Krakoa era, they did absolutely nothing with those two, and it irritates me because I don't know how they managed to fumble the ball with them. Well, I can tell you that having done this song and dance with DC and Marvel Comics for so long, the main reason why they fumble the ball with them mostly comes down to lack of interest. They're not interested in really writing those types of relationships, and I don't know that I'm not like insinuating that they have anything in particular against them. It's just where that's not on their list of priorities. Now when it came to me, here we have the Zatswan characters. Myself, I've mentioned before that I'm a mixed person. That's no secret. So actually, portraying an interracial relationship with depth was actually a priority of mine. Like, I set out to do that. Not that, for this particular book, in the plot, in the narrative, the races of the characters don't really matter, but I do think they are very, very important for, like, people to see, because when this is your world, when this is what your world looks like, you want to see things that you relate to, you've lived through in the fiction that you consume. So that's the main reason, and when it comes to Marvel and a lot of these people behind the scenes, that's just not their priority. I don't think they're not looking at it like that. So they're not going to give you, if it's not a priority to give them that type of, to give the readers that type of entertainment, or that aspect in their entertainment, you're not likely to get it good. And if you do, a lot of times it's like many things in comics, it's a happy accident. It's just something that kind of happens, which the Captain Marvel War Machine thing, I think, yeah, by some means it came about. So I would say that was maybe the happy accident. But where it fell apart is that nobody had any real interest in actually doing anything with it. And I did stumble upon, I looked into it a bit, and I found a bit of a quote from Captain Marvel writer Kelly Thompson, who, if you know how to read between the lines, she kind of confirms this. So an interviewer asks her, I know I should have things to say about Rhodey. He and Carol get a lot of time in this book, but honestly, I still feel like Carol's ride or die is Jess. Thompson goes on to say, listen, I love Rhodey. So you could already kind of hear it already. Again, if you know how to read between the lines, there's an I love Rhodey, but, or an I love Rhodey, however. But going on, you can hear that coming, going on. Listen, I love Rhodey, and I think he and Carol are a good match. Nobody told me I had to keep them together. I did it because they make sense in a lot of ways, and because I didn't think the focus in Captain Marvel's superhero book should be looking for love. especially when she's being billed as one of the most powerful and popular female characters in the Marvel universe. There's a lot to unpack here. Isn't it kind of coincidence that when you get characters like this, like Captain Marvel and like Rey from Star Wars, where it's like they're like, I don't need no man, the male counterpart to them is a black guy. Like, I maybe that is a coincidence, but maybe it's not. Like Rey from Star Wars, like Finn tries to do the typical thing you see in movies and stuff with the male character tries to save the female character, but like he's constantly shown up and basically the female character's always showing, hey, listen, I don't need you. Isn't it interesting that it's the black guy that's happening to? And when we look at this Carol Danvers situation, it's like, oh, Captain, I'm not gonna write, what Kelly Thompson is essentially saying here is like, I'm not gonna write this female superhero and put love in here, like, because that would just be too weak and generic. And isn't it interesting that her love interest is a black guy? I don't know. Maybe that is a funny coincidence, but it is it's a thread that's common in these illustrations nonetheless. So she goes on to say, and so keeping her in a reliable, low drama relationship was a good fit for our goals most of the time. Okay, keeping her in a reliable, low drama relationship. Anyway, moving on. But I think it's impossible to deny the chemistry of Carol and Jess. I couldn't deny it as a reader or as a creator, nor would I want to. It just is. And it's beautiful. If you know how to read between the lines, what this is looking like to me is Kelly Thompson essentially saying that she has no interest in writing a relationship or giving the relationship with Rhodey and Carol Danvers any depth. It can just be there in the background and just be there because she's not interested in that. It sounds to me like she has a stronger interest in a gay relationship with Captain Marvel and Jessica Drew. And interesting, yeah, there's a whole ship on that. If you like a fan ship, a romance thing, like if you look up like Jessica Drew and Carol Danvers, you'll come up with whole fan pages about the ship. It seems to me that the Captain Marvel writer here is more interested in actually a homosexual connection between Captain Marvel and Jessica Drew. The She seems more enthusiastic about that, at least. The Rhodey thing was already there and she just didn't want to deal with it. That's what it comes across to me, just by, or she wasn't enthusiastic about dealing with it, and that's why she didn't deal with it. So the answer is kind of all for you right there if you know how to read between the lines. She just wasn't interested in, writing that. And that's why you run into a lot of, it wasn't a priority for her like it was a priority for me when I did Zatswan. This was a priority. Depicting it the way I've depicted it here it was intentional. It was a priority. It's a priority for me to give this relationship depth and to make it matter, just because that's how I would write any romance with my character typically, and also because I do know what this is. I do know what it that symbolizes and so on and so forth, and I wanted to make sure that this was done with depth. But to come back and answer the question, or I guess it wasn't a question by Long-Legged Mac Daddy, it was kind of just a statement. But to answer the question, why does this type of stuff happen with black characters? It basically comes down to those characters aren't a priority for those companies. And I'm not necessarily insinuating that the companies are intentionally doing things to undercut them, although that does happen sometimes and it has happened in the past. I think it's just like when you have a whole universe of characters and these people behind the scenes all have their favorites and stuff like that, they're not thinking about, War Machine all that much. So yeah, sure, go ahead, put him in a relationship with Captain Marvel. Then it's like, okay, so who's going to write Captain Marvel? Kelly Thompson. and and Kelly Thompson's like, okay, so there's this relationship going on already. I ain't that interested in it, like, because that's not her priority. That's not on her list of priorities. But anyway, be sure to leave your comments below. It helps the channel a lot. It doesn't take too much to leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. It really doesn't. And how it helps the channel is like enormous. So I would appreciate it if you would go ahead and do that, take part in the discussion. And I will talk to all of you again very soon. Take care.